Wait, give him a second. Okay, she's going to start.
Okay. Time now is 7:41, Tuesday, March 20th, 2018. I'd like to call to order the Administration and Finance Committee meeting. We already took a moment of silent meditation and a pledge of allegiance, so we'll go ahead and skip that. Madam Clerk, can we please get a roll call?
Roll call. Chairperson Roman.
Here.
Vice Chair Cubillos.
Here.
Member Nickerson.
Here.
Also present for the record, Councilperson Mathis, Janice Jacoby, Village Clerk, Christia Liu, Village Manager, Interim Village Attorney Norman Powell, CFO Irwin Williams, and acting as Chief Hufnagel.
Okay. I reviewed the agenda, I'm sorry. May I get approved? Did everybody review the agenda?
You did, Madam
There's a
Mayor.
couple of things that I would like to change around, if possible.
Of
Or make
course.
an addition.
Of
I
course.
didn't have the tracking report on there, so I see that Irwin is here. I'd like to add that to G1, so that we can first discuss the financials.
Okay, so you want to put the tracking report right
As G1.
as G1, and then move
Yeah, and then
everything else
just move
down?
everything
All
else
right,
down.
no problem.
Do I have a motion to approve the agenda with the changes?
Meetings and procedures. Office. I would like to add, I guess, a G11 real quick, and that would just be, I just wanted to update on the status of the acting chief and what we're going to do as far as acting or interim or whatever, like, you know. I brought that up last time with her title and what we're going to do with her titles. So I just want to discuss that for G11. So G1 is going
And
to be a tracking
actually-
report. Everything else moves down.
I hate to drag this, but I did add another item, but I don't see it on here now. And the other item was an update on the background, on the fingerprints that are required.
So that would be G12.
So that would be G12.
G12 fingerprints. G11 is the update on Ryan for acting. interim
Acting.
Title. Okay. That's G11. G12 fingerprints.
Mayor, do you have anything?
No, I apologize. I have a little bit of a situation that I have to deal with over here, so I might be up and down from the dais, but I seconded it. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, agenda's been approved. The next item is the approval of the minutes from the January 16th Admin and Finance Committee. I did have some additions on that I didn't see, and it's just a minor detail. Did everybody else get a chance to review the minutes?
I did not. I'm not going to lie. I did not get a chance to review the minutes.
Okay. Mayor, did you get a chance to review?
You know, I apologize because for some reason, I thought that the January meetings was the one that I recorded, so I honestly, I didn't even look at the ones for public affairs. I apologize, I did not.
I have total faith.
But, I mean, if you two feel comfortable with it, I mean, they're pretty short, so.
Okay, the only thing that I'd like to add here is in the G5. Oh, give me 1 second. I would say it's after G6C. That's the time where the committee agreed that all of the reviews would be completed by January 31st for the clerk. And at that meeting, that's when it was changed that we would do a one-on-one per her request. And that's not on the minutes. Do you guys
Okay. I
recall
got
that?
you. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'd like to add that to the,
So motion to approve the minutes with the amendment.
okay, do we have a second?
A second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Next, we'll
I never
open it up
requested
to,
That would be a lie because I never requested that. So that's not in the minutes.
Don't we still have the recording?
Yeah.
Okay, so I do recall, I don't know if you specifically asked for it, but you specifically said in that meeting that you did not want a public evaluation as the former manager received, and you requested a private one. That definitely was covered at that meeting.
No, actually, Mathis from before had said, yeah.
So what we can do is we can just review the recording.
so we'll review the recording and then change the minutes accordingly. Yep.
So you're tabling the approval of the minutes until the tape is reviewed?
We can do that.
I think that's a better practice.
Yeah.
Okay, we can do that. With the attorney's suggestion is that we will table this until we review the recording, and then we can make whatever changes are needed.
The only question I have is, when will it be reviewed and who's reviewing it?
So,
Well, the alternative is to just adopt a procedure now. Like, that saves having to go back and review the minutes and come back to amend these minutes, and you
Yeah.
all can simply just agree on a procedure now that you can use going forward. So that way, it's resolved today.
Yeah, I mean, upon, but that's a good question. Who's gonna review?
Yeah, if I can help.
Yes.
If the exercise is to determine how to move forward with the evaluation, and there's a disagreement as to what was decided or discussed back in January, going back to look at the tape is only going to demonstrate what was discussed at that time, because at this point, there's still a disagreement as to what was intended. So I think at this point, you just simply propose a particular procedure.
Yeah,
okay, so I have that in G5 as part of, well, actually, it's now G6, as part of the discussion there. So should we just say that we're going to table the minutes and until the
Yeah,
following meeting?
Madam Chair, if I may,
Yeah.
I think the confusion is because he's saying, why don't we just decide on the procedure we're going to use right now? But we've already done it.
Right.
So we've done the evaluations as a one-on-one basis.
I haven't done the evaluation yet.
Okay, well,
Right.
the majority, but I think the confusion is he's saying, why don't we decide what the procedure we're going to
Yeah.
use now? But for most of us, the procedure's already been done. You see what I'm saying? So that point right there is kind of out of the window. So the only concern that we're having is the minutes and who requested the certain procedure being used that we've been using. And who's requested, or how did that come to be, that's in the meeting minutes. And so that's the decision that we have to use, not the procedure itself, which, that's the only thing I wanted to clear up.
Well, who requested it?
That's what's in the minutes, and that's what's right
So
now.
you don't have any recollection as to who requested?
Well, my recollection, the chair's recollection
That's the
is
problem.
that.
But the way it works is very simple. The minutes are amended based upon the recollection of
which
the
is-
councilpersons. So to the extent that there is a request by a particular councilperson to amend the minutes, there's a second, it's so moved, and it's passed. It's not the public's, or actually the clerk's, or my position to question how the minutes are
Yeah.
amended or adopted. So there's no need to go back and review the tape, because you're amending the minutes.
So we'll just amend the minutes.
That's what the approval process is about. You're looking at the minutes, and even if you go back and something is on the tape that you decided was on the tape, it still doesn't change the fact that a councilperson commissioner can amend the minutes to reflect their true intent at the time of that meeting at a later date in today's proceeding.
Yeah, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
But wouldn't we want the minutes amended to reflect the truth and accuracy going forward, so that if 2 years from now, somebody wants to look back at the minutes and say who brought it forward, then it's accurate?
But they meant,
Yes and no. I mean, I'd hate to give you a bifurcated answer. Proposing that opens the door to every time there is a request to amend the minutes, to go back and review the tape of the proceedings to reflect verbatim. Under the Florida law, your minutes are simply a general pronouncement of what occurred at the meeting, okay? To the extent that you all are having a concern about who initiated the one-on-one process, you all can amend the minutes today to exclude it, but that's what you did. My concern is that every time there is a discussion about amending the minutes, it's going to be tabled, and then there's going to be a resort to having to review the actual footage of the prior meeting, but that's not what's called for under Florida law. But if that's the will of the council, you're more than welcome to do that. But I'm just cautioning you, you're opening up the door for never really being able to amend your minutes at the succeeding meetings,
Yeah.
because, nope, I didn't say that, let's go pull the tape.
I understand.
And then you're forever like doing that.
Madam Chair.
If I may, through the chair?
Yes, you may.
Okay. I'm confused too, because I wrote the evaluation, and the evaluation standardly is for a one-on-one. So I'm confused, are you talking about it was supposed to be one-on-one, or are you talking about it not being out in the public?
So originally, we were asked to send the chair, which at the time was Mathis, all of the reviews for the clerk.
Right.
And that, from my understanding, the only two council people that did that were Werner Dreyer, Councilperson Dreyer, and myself.
And me.
And the chair. And so what the committee discussed at that meeting was that we were under the impression that we were going to do the review as we've done in the past with the manager. And so that's where the conversation went. And then it was per the request of the clerk, and she was included in the conversation. We decided that we would do it one-on-one at the last committee meeting, that we would move forward that way. And so that's all that I'm asking to be included. Also the date of when the reviews were due, because not all the reviews have been completed yet.
Okay.
Does that clarify?
Yes and no.
Okay. All right, I think, per what the attorney just mentioned, we should just move forward with amending the minutes. We all agreed, we all voted on it, and that's that.
Right, so in other words, the amendment would simply be that the recommendation of the Administrative and Finance Committee was to conduct one-on-one interviews with the village clerk concerning her evaluation, and that there was a time certain of whatever date to get it done, but that.
January 31st,
Right,
yeah.
and that's it. But it,
I mean, I'm with you guys, pretty much. I just wanted to be accurate, because if
well, I think that's where I don't mean to cut you off.
Yeah.
That's where the disconnect is. Your minutes are not designed to be an accurate reflection of the meeting. The minutes are, the minutes are simply just a general description of what happened at the meeting. And that's what I'm trying to get you to see.
I see that. I just know that I just don't want this to come back going forward, and for this to come up again.
Right.
To where you have somebody saying that it was this way, somebody saying that it was the opposite way,
Just don't
and
accept the amendment.
yeah, and because this can come up later on, down the line, months from now, we just didn't solve it from the very beginning.
We
Correct,
just
but
don't
we all
accept the
agree.
amendment.
Okay.
So to the extent that a council person says, I'd like to amend the minutes to reflect that we would have
I
one-on-one
got you.
meetings, and you don't want that to happen, you just say, no, I don't want it to do that. And then it gets voted up or down. But what my main concern is, again, is resorting to a tape, a video of any prior meeting to try to get the minutes to reflect it, even in the simplest way, is, first of all, not required under the Florida law, but more importantly, it can lead to always resorting that to any time there's a disagreement.
I understand.
And we all voted yes.
Okay.
So
We can-
we're moving forward?
Yes.
Okay, great. Opening it up to good and welfare. Anyone in good and welfare? No? Okay, we'll move forward to the first agenda item. I don't see Erwin, did he?
I apologize, I asked him, I don't know how long it's going to take, he's printing something for me, he'll be right out.
Okay, so we'll give him a minute so that I moved that to G1 so that we can go over the financials. On the tracking report, the one that was provided in the packet was incorrect. A tracking report is not what I emailed, and so I printed it out for you guys. I basically just updated it from our last committee meeting, and the only item on there that I see that we really need to review today is item 7, which is the financials. Are you guys okay with that?
Of course.
Okay, so we'll wait for Erwin to
Madam Chair.
step in so that we can review that.
Madam Chair,
Yes?
for sake of time, can we do G11 very quickly? I mean, that's my thing. We can just.
I'm okay with that. Mayor, are you okay with that?
What's G11, acting chief? Are you leaving early?
No,
Oh.
just
Oh,
might as
okay.
well
For sake of time.
Yeah, for sake of time. No, I'm gonna be here the whole time.
Okay, so we'll move that to G1 then. And we'll make the tracking report G2. And then all the ones following.
Following,
Okay.
All right, so the last time we had our committee meeting, I believe it was a committee meeting, I brought up our acting chief, Huffenagel, and her title is acting chief, and so I was just bringing up things such as everybody, we've all talked about how great our trifecta being the three, our three-headed juggernaut of the manager, the mayor, and the acting chief, and how good they were at the hurricane, and how things have gone, and we were all in agreement that our mayor's been wonderful, our manager's been wonderful, and throughout all that, we were all saying how great our acting chief was also. And so my question was, at that time, which I guess I'm asking for kind of more direction tonight, was that her title was acting chief. And I was wondering, why wasn't it interim chief, and could that possibly be something that we can make happen?
Thank you. At that meeting in January, I do recall that I discussed that I have had a pleasure working with Acting Chief Huffnagel, and that there would have to be some review of this very high-profile position for the village. When we had our public safety committee meeting 2 weeks ago, I discussed this as well, that there would be an evaluation of the chief at the end of this month. It was supposed to be before our next council meeting, so I'm hoping to do that in the next couple of days. With that will come some things to measure her growth. I've worked with her for a little over 6 months now, so I feel like I can give her a pretty good evaluation. But with that, I also need to ensure that she's able to do certain things that we will need for that position. So once that evaluation and those deliverables are delivered to the chief, we should reconvene to see where she is and go from there. So that's where I'm at with the position.
Okay, all right, so after the upcoming review, then you'll make a decision if she gets moved with the interim title.
Yes, I'd like to resolve that sooner than later, so I will make that determination then.
Yes, if that can be resolved. Thank you, appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Okay, so moving on, where's Erwin?
I apologize, I didn't realize it would take that long, I'm sorry.
Erwin, all right,
You
so
wanna
let's
get
move,
fingerprints?
why don't we move G12? And that'll be quick. And I just wanted to, basically, we discussed this at the last committee meeting, and it's been something that's been ongoing for quite some time now. So if we could just get a update from the village manager as to what's going on.
Okay. Okay, everyone, we have more people who are being fingerprinted coming up because we have had some turnover with our staff. So for now, our Human Resources Coordinator. She just went through her security clearance and passed, and she started working with us. We had two people leave last week. That was Carlene Lafontaine and Ms. Elena Greck. So in their replacement as building clerk, we had to bring in contractors from CAP. So because they're not permanent yet, and today was their first day, we have to figure out who will be permanent from CAP and then get them security cleared. In terms of the remaining staffers, we have everyone except for Councilmember Dreyer, who said he would not be taking that.
Hip to hip.
He would just do hip to hip, and he hasn't requested any, meetings within the administrative offices. Councilmember Mathis has completed his, and I think that's it.
Anybody else? Garcia, all the other staff?
Oh, yeah,
members?
everybody else. Well, Garcia had completed his, but we're down, like I said, two who had already done
And the
the.
village clerk?
The village clerk has not done it yet, to my knowledge, no.
Okay.
But we were able to, I think she did express some interest in doing it, but we couldn't, get the time proper for her. So the acting chief did secure an alternative for her so that's more flexible for her to get it done.
Okay, so,
So hopefully that will be so, if she's able to go. Because now we have alternative location where she can get it. It's more flexible. It's 8 to 3.
does anyone in the committee have anything to add to that?
What was changed? A new location, a new hours, or what, you
It's
said
an
something has
add-on.
changed?
Yeah, they got us another location. Acting Chief Hofnagel can explain more.
Thank you.
Good evening. The Coral Gables Police Department is available, and they are available on Wednesdays and Fridays between the hours of 8 to 3. All you need to come in is with the ORI number and your driver's license. So Wednesdays and Fridays between the hours of 8 to 3. All I have to do is walk in.
Is there a cost now?
And I don't believe so. Okay?
So the reason that we brought this back up in the agenda is because it's been on there since, I don't know, Chief, when was it that we were requested this?
It's been on the agenda since November of last year.
So since November of last year, and so, do we have a date now, Madam Clerk, that you're going to be going to go get your fingerprints?
No, I wasn't even aware of the Gables. I did ask for another alternative.
We just secured it
Yeah.
yesterday.
Okay.
Yesterday afternoon.
Okay.
So we haven't had a chance to discuss it with you.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion for all the fingerprints for staff to be completed before, I like to see, before the end of the month. So that's March, how many days is this month? Half, 30th, 31st?
11 more days.
Huh?
It's like 11 more days, 31 days.
31 days. So by March 30th, do I have a second?
How many, excuse me one
Yeah.
second, Madam Chair. How many individuals do we have left that hasn't had them?
2.
Oh, two? Oh, yeah, well, again,
Wait,
Councilmember Dreyer and.
Well,
the-
Councilmember
he's
Dreyer is
part-time
going to
village
do the
clerk.
hip-to-hip.
Right, he's not going to do
Oh, he's not going to do, so then it's just one then.
I don't even go to that side for anything, to be honest with you. As Christia can attest, and she can attest, I don't go to that side for anything. My office is on this side, so that doesn't include me. And I actually spoke to other chiefs as well about the situation, and they told me that as long as I don't go to that step, because it's in writing, and if I don't go to the other side for any kind of business, then I can stay on where I'm at.
Chair.
I think I'd like to hear from our attorney, perhaps.
Well, it's spelled out in what it's spelled out in what the Florida Department of Law Enforcement is requiring.
I'm not law
To
enforcement.
the extent that the department is requiring that anyone that has access or may have potential access to the state network, they have to be fingerprinted. So if that.
But Councilperson Dreher opted for the hip-to-hip. I never go to that side, so I can opt as well, I'm assuming.
But you're an employee.
You're an employee of the village.
Correct, but I'm on this side. It's not addressed to me, that's where I find the problem. And I also brought it up to another attorney as well. And because it's everywhere I worked, it's been addressed to you when something needs to be done.
Well, I'm not going to debate, or I'm just going to communicate.
I know I'm communicating right back. I'm just letting you know.
I think I'm very much familiar with this, to the extent that the Florida Department of Law Enforcement has this requirement. The next step is, if we don't comply as a village, they take away the access. So the chief is indicating, I've not had the opportunity to read the actual user agreement, but my experience with the user agreements is, unless you have your network in a secure location where the CAP officer is able to access that, and it's only that CAP officer. And
So that's going to be for anybody who does business with the village, because I have seen consultants who have gone back there at this point.
Again, let me just get finished. So, to the extent that the department has issued a pronouncement as to what's required under their user agreement, the first step is to comply with it. To the extent that they have given an alternative for fingerprinting, then there can be a request of the FDLE if that's something acceptable for somebody who's an employee of the village.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
If I may. I think that what needs to happen from this is, and this is another thing, on a much bigger scale, of course, but when it came to like the minutes, so this is about accuracy.
Right.
So what needs to happen is that if there's any way that we can do this, can we, from FDLE, in writing, find out if you're an employee, can you have hip-to-hip like Councilperson Dreher, who's not, or do you have to have, as an employee, your fingerprints done?
Right.
But I think that makes a big
Right.
difference.
That's right.
If I may, I think what we discussed at the last I don't know if we discussed it at the council meeting, I know we discussed it at the committee meeting, is that we're not staffed to have the hip-to-hip. And so Councilperson Dreher is not here every single day. He can call in to make an appointment. And so, with all due respect, what you're asking is going to, in my opinion, disrupt the operations. And I'll let the attorney
Right,
continue.
it goes back to what I just said before. You have the user agreement. The user agreement defines who can access the network and the precautions that the department has to take in order to comply with it. My understanding, because I've not reviewed the user agreement, but it's pretty much standard, my understanding from speaking with the chief on this briefly and being brought up to speed on this is that because of the nature of the way the village is set up, when the department came to look at the setup, they required this because unfortunately the village does not have, like most other places, like I was mentioning before, a designated location that is not walled off, cordoned off. So anyone that's going to be here on a daily basis, employed, they've required, because of the setup, fingerprinting. So that's what the issue is. So to the extent that there's a way around it, they're going to have to tell us, because they're the ones that has a user agreement.
Madam Chair, if I may. Yes, which I agree with you, which is why I said that, like you said, if there's a way around it, then, which is why I said we should get that.
But they're telling us there isn't. That's the problem. That's what they're telling us.
I'm sorry, yes, actually, from FDLE came and met with myself,
Right.
the village manager, and the mayor. And she came in and saw the whole layout. This was actually an additional audit that was being done. And she explained to them that we need to have everybody that's employed because of the way we're laid out, because, we have a city manager that's inside the police department, and she needs to have contact with, people, the employees, her employees are on this side, that they need to be fingerprinted.
And let me just,
Something was brought to my attention. Funny you say that, because Mr. D was supposed to only work on this side based on a fingerprint situation. So therefore, it leads me to believe that if I work on this side, I don't have to go to the other side. So him as an employee was offered that. So I, as an employee, I'm not offered that?
let me,
But Mr. D got his fingerprints on.
Yes,
But regardless, because his fingerprints, the situation that happened with his fingerprints, he was told that he was no longer going to be here.
let me,
First of all, You all have to, this is my first meeting.
Yeah. Sorry.
I did read that you all follow Robert's Rules of Order, and everything has to flow through the chair, which is fine. It's not an audience or a left or right free-for-all. And to the extent I'm being asked a question as the attorney, I give the opinion. It's not a debate. And I'm telling you what my opinion is. My opinion is based upon, first, my experience with the FDLE user agreements. They're very pretty much ironclad. And it's a very, very serious agreement that is very guarded by the department. And the last thing the department wants to be is in a position where we can't access the user network because of this type of issue. But more importantly, the issue for us here in the village, as the chief just mentioned, is the layout. And they actually came and inspected the layout, and this is their pronouncement. So this is, we don't have any, leeway but to either comply or run the risk of not being able to use the network.
Madam Chair.
So, I mean, and I think at this point, based on the attorney's feedback, based on what the chief, has explained as FDLE, based on what the village manager has explained from the previous meetings, I just feel the only other option is to have everyone completed by March 30th. We had someone who started, and, as a new HR person, and that person could not, really be fully employed until their background check was completed. We agreed as a committee that this is how we're going to be moving forward, that anyone that's employed with the village needs to get their, backgrounds checked and their fingerprints done, and that's just the way we're moving forward, period. So why we're continuing to have this discussion and lay it out, I don't understand that. And so for me, I like to motion that everyone gets their fingerprints by March 30th, which is plenty of time because this has been on the agenda since November.
Madam Chair.
Do I have a second?
Did you just second?
I did not.
Oh, I have a question. Is Coral Gables every day 8 to 3?
No, Wednesdays and Fridays only.
Okay, so that gives how many weeks? Let's look at a calendar. Okay, so that's really just 1 week. So
Well, it's two
this
Wednesdays-
was-
it's 2 Wednesdays
yeah,
and 2 Fridays.
Tomorrow, it's this week and next week. I mean, I think that's plenty of time since November. So again, I made a motion that all of our employees get fingerprinted by March 30th. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion passes. All employees must get fingerprinted by March 30th. Okay, moving on. We'll go back to the tracking report. Erwin, you're up. We're really, the financials is the only thing that we need to review on the tracking report.
There is no financial report tonight, which I think would be kind of irrational expectation based on what's going on right now. But for the last 2 weeks, as you know, there's been no support in the finance department. And it's been everyone doing everything from payroll to checks to deposits to bank reconciliations to whatever has to be done because Carlene walked out. And then we had an issue with the new person getting their clearance, their security clearance. So it took 2 weeks until they got on board. Today was her first day. I spent all day today training her on some of the various aspects. And I'm going to be training her again all day on Thursday. And then next week, I'm going to get back into my grind again. So I'm anticipating I could have the February financials by the end of next week. But you have to give me a little bit of a leeway due to the circumstances.
So by March 30th, you'll have the financials?
Whatever the end of next Friday is.
Okay. Village manager, you okay with that?
If you are fine with that. If you're fine with that, I am too. And I can make sure that we get those to you by the 30th of March, if that's the date. Is that the date you can do, March 30th? That's the date you can have that?
Yeah, whatever the next Friday, a week from this Friday. We do have one other issue, is that When the other person that was here walked out, she also walked out with all the passwords that we didn't have for the various systems that we have to get into. And one of them I still don't have, which I've called the bank, is the credit card system that we use. I don't have access to draw down the deposits to book the entries that I have to make to the end of the month. So what I told the manager is that I'm going to make a master list up of all user IDs and passwords, which she's going to maintain, so that ever happens again, we don't have to worry about an employee walking out and we can't get into the various parts of the various systems that we have to get into.
Anyone in the committee have anything to add?
No, ma'am.
No, Chair, I have a question. Where are we at with the audit? Has the auditing started for 67?
Yeah, good question. The audit's starting on April 4th.
Okay.
I already talked to the auditors. I've given them preliminary information. I've got to get them the rest of the information next week, and it's going to start on the week of the 4th. The
And I
other
was
thing I
gonna make a
want to
recommendation.
bring up that next month, we should probably put onto the agenda that to do a major budget amendment that we're going to do. In the month of April, we should start taking a look at that. The only problem is you're going to, again, I'm going to need probably to mid-April to be able to get the numbers that I need, because we have to close out March before I can do that projection. So when's the meeting in April? April the what?
Are you asking, well,
Yeah,
are you asking for the council or committee meeting?
The council.
Oh,
The 20-something, the council meeting?
20-something.
Okay, so I'll try to have a preliminary ready for that meeting so that we can discuss. There's only going to be, some specific line items we know we have to, just like Irma, and some of the other lines we know that we haven't budgeted for, that we're going to have to address in that mid-year budget amendment.
So you want to discuss that on April 24th at our council meeting?
through the chair, I have a question, though. When is it due by? When do we have to submit the?
There's no due. There's no deadline on that.
So can we review it at the May committee meeting better, before it
The
goes to
May?
full council?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do it in May.
May committee meeting?
So
then
May, that's May.
So we can actually review the amendment at the May council and the committee
Yeah,
meeting?
So that's May
bef-
15th.
Yeah, the only
Yeah,
deadline we
alright.
have is at the end of the year, that your final budget amendment can't be passed 60 days past the end of your fiscal year. That's the only
Got it.
mandated deadline that we
Okay,
have.
okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, 60.
Go ahead.
Chairwoman, if I may add, that remember too, we are doing the preliminary budget in, did we say the end of June? I know
Yeah, we should start planning for
Right, so
in
if
June,
we're
for the
May-
preliminary, start working on the budget workshops, and then it's working on next year's budget.
Well, through the chair, we have already placed it on the calendar, which the second July, excuse me, second July. Second Tuesday in July, because a trim notice is received on the 30th, so we'll have the tax roll by then, and then we plan for the budget workshop. But a recommendation to the chair is you may want to add on here, because we've missed it in the past, is the audit, so that we have it, it's a remembrance of something that we need to, be sure that we discuss. So I remembered it because I was just looking
Yeah.
through a few things.
The audit and the AFR have to be presented by June, we have till June
Yeah.
30th to get
So-
it submitted.
We do a self-audit every year, and we need to audit, and we have Alberti Cabralini that does our 2016-17, and we just have to be sure that we are on top of that, because if you fell behind in audit, it's very bad.
And so the audit starts on April 4th, correct?
Yes. They're normally, they're not going to be, they're normally on site for about, for the week, not past that.
Okay. All righty, so I'll add that to the tracking report. I wanted to mention, Erwin, during the public safety, it was mentioned that we'd like to see a miscellaneous for the police department. So if you could add that to the budget, a miscellaneous.
It's already been done.
It's already been done, okay, excellent. Perfect, I was just double checking. Okay, anything else with the financials committee? Any questions? No?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so we'll get the financials, you get that to the village manager by March 30th.
Yep.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Okay, so now, the next item on the agenda is the manager's contract. As you all know, the manager's contract was reviewed, and it was ready to go on February 27th. I had that on the agenda for the council meeting, and I pulled that because there was a finding earlier that day, which I spoke to the village manager about in regards to what was brought to my attention, and I felt that it needed a little bit more, it needed to be brought back to the committee, was that Councilperson Mathis was the designated registered agent on our village manager's, our interim village manager's law firm. And so, in the past, I know that I had some concerns after the initial meeting when we decided to hire the manager, when a resident brought up that she was concerned with the relationship that the manager and the council person had. And so I gave it the benefit of the doubt, and I did have a discussion, a couple of discussions with the manager in regards to that, just to make sure that, it was not a personal relationship. And after finding this out on February 27th, I felt that it was something that needed to be brought up to the full committee, because I didn't think it would be right for me to keep that information to myself and move forward with the contract. And so I just wanted to explain to the committee why it is that I pulled the contract, and why it is that I put that on the agenda today. And I don't know if the village manager wants to say anything.
Yeah, I would love to. Thank you for the opportunity. I've stated this a number of times. I live in this community. I patronize the businesses here. I'm civically engaged, involved. I am a lawyer, and I knew Councilmember Mathis he's in the legal field as well as politics, and I met him when I worked for the county as the policy director for Commissioner Audrey Edmondson. And from there, years later, I wanted to open up my own law practice. At that time, Councilmember Mathis was incorporating businesses for a fee, and I asked him to do mine, and he did, and he was the registered agent for it. Years passed, and I really never changed the my registration or my SunBiz information. I just pay the fee and update it, and we move on. So when I started working here almost 7 months ago, I didn't think about that he was my registered agent for my law practice. But when you brought it to my attention, Councilmember Roman, I changed it immediately. And I do have the proof that it has been changed. It's an easy thing to do. And, there was no deception or I wasn't trying to conceal it. I mean, that's a public thing. It had merely slipped my mind. And I'm glad it was caught, because there's no reason to keep him on as considering our new working relationship. So that has been changed, and I hope that you will see that. I've done very good work for the village in these months as interim village manager. I've also demonstrated professionalism, fairness, and friendliness to everyone on this dais, all of the staff as well as the residents. Councilmember Mathis doesn't get any special treatment because of our relationship. He's been helpful. We know each other in a civic way, and that has spilled over in some social settings, as it has with the mayor. When I needed childcare for after school and in summer camp, I used Miss Claudia's Village Academy. I go to church, and you go to the same church with me, Councilmember. So because it's a small community, we're going to know each other outside of these four walls, and I hope that my remedying the situation and being very transparent will allay your fears, and you can see the good work I'm willing and want to do for the village.
Thank you. So I do agree that it is a small community. It just so happened that I learned that, just as an example, that our interim attorney, attended a retreat with my husband, and they know each other. They met each other. They're acquaintances. So yeah, it is a small community. However, there's a difference between a personal relationship, friendship, and acquaintances. And I think that that's where my concern was raised. Had this been brought up, by the, by the village manager or by our council person, then perhaps, we wouldn't be sitting here discussing this. So I just like to maybe hear from the committee and,
Yeah, Madam Chair, if I may.
yeah.
I mean, I guess I could see both sides of arguments. I mean, this is a small community. I understand. I guess you feel like it should have been disclosed like much sooner, which I can see that also. The only thing I have to say for myself is, for me personally, I look at the work that's been done, and I just know that for all of these months, everybody up here was saying like how good of a employee she was. I know that even, and this is coming from me, because when we went to make her from interim to manager, I was the only one that voted no. Like everybody else went straight from interim to manager. You guys didn't even put out for contracts. I was the only one that voted no and wanted to be put out for contracts. So apparently everybody, even more than me, thought that she was doing a wonderful job up here. So I think, I don't see how that's changed as of right now. I don't know.
Mayor, is there anything that?
A couple of things. I think the manager and the chair said a couple of things that I'm going to touch on, and that is there is a really big difference between being community and having a friendship. There is. And I think that because we're a small community and all eyes are always on us from the residents, I think this is a really good time to truly just disclose where we're at. Because while the clerk kids currently go to my school, and while the manager's child used to go to my school, and the clerk will tell you and the manager will tell you, her child went to my school for years, we never hung out.
Yeah.
We were never friends. Like, I never even saw her. Like, and Christia's child went to my school, we were never friends. We were friendly and social, and I hung out with you only when I was invited. We were never friends. We just knew each other. There's a big difference between being friends and being acquaintances, or, you have a business and you provide a service and so on and so forth, and you all pay a fee for the service. And this is my concern, because we all know that those are those residents that call us because they want to know what happened, and I'm so surprised they're not here tonight. I need full transparency, and a lot of people can say, and a lot of people do say, that Harold and I are friends, because we are. We've become friends in the 9 years I've been here, and we've done a lot of things together. What I need in terms of total disclosure, and I think what the residents need, is that this can't be, I don't, part of me doesn't believe that you were hiding it or anything. I do believe it needed to be disclosed. The one thing I'm probably uncomfortable with when I was told this is that when the manager mentioned it to me, what had happened, I think she renewed it the same day. I think the chair actually went to her, and that's really unfortunate. It would have been great if you would have renewed it and I changed it. But I think there needs to be a transparency and honesty, and to dismiss the relationship like it's anything. It shouldn't be, because there is a friendship there, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it needs to be sincere, because it really, I think that that's really important, that as a committee, as a council, the way we go forward, if this is going to become permanent, like, there needs to be, you need to come here and tell the committee, and maybe at the time recuse yourself from the vote. I think that would set well with the residents, just because we were all here when this came to full council. There was a lot of resistance from the residents, and an effort to have that, like the chair said, it would have been helpful if maybe, somebody would have disclosed it. And I think and unfortunately, Councilperson Mathis was here, I think the onus falls on the elected as opposed to the manager to having to really, disclose who you have ties with, and we know that. But I'm one who's really busy and understand we forget things. But, there just needs to be that, because I think that's important. It can't be, because it's not. And what happens is when we're in this setting, the boundaries become very blurred because just the nature of the beast. And that's where I'm at, and if anybody has worked closely with the manager, has been me. And I was the biggest fan when this was coming to be permanent, and the chair wanted it to extend the interim basis, and I was more of like, no, let's do this. But, as the mayor, I need to feel that there's a sense of, I don't know the right word I'm looking for, but I think you all may understand, there just needs to be, I need to be, because, and you all know that the onus, the mayor doesn't have any strong power. I'm not a strong mayor. I don't make all the votes. But you know what? As the mayor, everything always falls in my lap. And when something goes wrong, it's my fault. When something goes right, we all receive the reward, and that's fine. But, some of the calls that I got are with always the usual suspects that call you, have the loudest voices. And I need to be clear that whatever decision we move forward, it's going to be one that's not going to reflect poor decisions on the council. That's, putting it as best as I can, but there was doubt from the beginning that we got a lot from, and this probably doesn't help the cause, and it's incredibly unfortunate. But however we go with this, it needs to be super clearly defined, because it can't be like, oh, okay, whatever, it's dismissed, it was changed. No, like, the council is fully aware that, transparency, disclosure, and, all that, and all that goodness, and fair to everybody, the process, because you know what, we didn't put it out for an RFQ, which that's sort of another, not an RFQ, excuse me, post to position public. That's sort of another red flag that we didn't do that, and this sort of doesn't help that. And you know what I mean. You've been doing this for a long time. You know exactly what I mean in terms of like processes and procedures and appearances and perception. You know what I mean.
Are you done, Mayor? Okay.
Yes.
I'd like to just get maybe hear some feedback from our attorney. You've been listening to the conversation.
Great first meeting.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's, okay. The issue is simply whether or not, in my mind, Commissioner Mathis had a voting conflict when this came up. And that can't be decided other than to determine whether or not the relationship is one that's of financial nature and that he could profit from. So that's the first issue that relates to whether or not there's been an ethical or some type of issue that would require further action. As it relates to the friendship and the failure to disclose that fully, I can't sit here and tell you whether or not that's been done or not done. He and they both have stated that they know each other, and that they've had a relationship in the past, and it sounds like from the description that we've heard here today that it's just simply started as a constituent friendship, and maybe it's become more familiarity over the years. But the determinative focus is whether or not the failure to disclose the fact that Mr. Mathis, or Councilman Mathis, served as the registered agent on the company is one of financial nature. And I can't tell that. I certainly don't want to get into that at this point, but that's pretty much the inquiry. Now, whether or not you all want to consider that fully, I think at this point in this meeting, I don't think you all are equipped to do that. I really don't. I don't think that, even if you tried to, that that would be something that you'd be able to get to the bottom of anyway. So I think the focus now is solely on Councilman Mathis to define what the business relationship in his own right, he doesn't have to do that here, but question becomes, how do you want to evaluate going forward with the proposed contract for the manager, based upon what you know, and putting it in the light most favorable to continue with her as the manager. And if you can't get there, then that's a decision that you all have to make. I mean, that's,
No, I think it should be done with the full council. So I think where I feel now, as we say in committee, this is where the work happens, but then we need to bring things to the full council. And just in the feedback that I listened to, now that I have to still absorb it, but I think that I would motion that we definitely need to move forward in some regard. Go ahead, did you have something to say?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, what is the then suggestion from the chair? What do you?
My suggestion is that we bring it to the full council, and that,
Are we deciding whether we're gonna get rid of her job, her position? What is the suggestion?
I think, we're just a committee. There are other members of the council that were expecting this contract. And perhaps, because we're voting on a contract, we're not just going to
For
be,
sure.
I think everyone needs to be on the same page or have the same information. And then we can move forward from there.
So when
accordingly.
no, I have no problem with that, Madam Chair. But when it goes to full, what are we taking to full council? Are we going to full council to decide if we're going to keep her or not? Are we going to full council to decide, what are we taking to full council?
I'd like to bring up the concern to the full council, and make a vote as to how we're going to, move forward, if we're going to accept the contract agreement that's going, that's there, or if we're not. Does that make sense, Attorney?
right, I mean, as I understand it, I wasn't at the meeting, but as I understand it, there was an agenda item at the last meeting to approve the manager's contract. It was pulled, I believe you pulled it, and it's back here. You're still in that posture at the committee level, so you're workshopping it now again. I believe Vice Chair is asking, well, what are we going to do? Are we going to send it back to the full council with a recommendation to approve it, or with the recommendation not to approve it? Or no recommendation, which that's not what the committee's designed for. I think that the committee has to give some type of direction to the full council. I think a motion is in order.
Before I make a motion, is there any other comments from the committee?
No, I didn't know if you were there and he wanted to say anything, if you wanted to hear him now. Because if this, like everybody has stated here, if it goes to full committee, is this topic going to full committee, and then a full committee, the topic is disclosed, discussed, and then to council, and then the council decides, okay, we've heard it, we're not happy with it, so we vote it down, keep it interim, or, okay, we heard it, we're fine, maybe the councilperson Mathis may need to recuse himself, I don't know, and it moves forward. I mean, I don't, like, there's different ways that it can go. If we're all sort of just not sure, then it just has to be moved to full council for full discussion, and then the full council will decide what to do with the information, and if we're gonna keep the contract or extend a resolution to keep it interim until we mull it over. I mean, that's really what the council is gonna decide, but this has to move out of committee and it has to go to full council. But it's up to you whether or not you wanna hear Councilperson Mathis.
Council?
Well, I just want to say that it clearly was an oversight. Totally forgot about it. when I got the phone call, I was like, oh my God, I totally forgot, and I will take care of it. First thing I did was take my name off of it. And anybody knows me, when it comes to me voting, if I feel like there's a problem, I will recuse myself. Once this happened, I knew from that point that I needed to recuse myself. It's unfortunate that I did forget, because I wouldn't want to put anybody, I mean, my colleagues and Ms. Alou in this situation, but it happened, and I forgot. I honestly forgot. It was so long ago that I even said to her, "Are you sure? Me?" I was quite busy when I started my business, and then I actually moved away. So it literally, I totally forgot about it. And then when I went through my records and then I went online, I saw that, yeah, I did do it. So, but that was it. At that time I had a business. It was Legal Mind and Insight, and I was incorporating businesses, doing corporate docs and all that good stuff, and I did pretty well for myself, and I forgot. I totally forgot. And again, had I remembered that, the first thing I would have done was disclosed it, because I am one that doesn't like issues. I mean, so yeah, it was an oversight, and I apologize to my colleagues, because I don't want you to think that I was trying to hide something anyway, because that's not me, and I apologize to Ms. Alou, because I totally forgot. I really did. I really did.
Well, I forgot to, so.
And when it does come up, I will recuse myself.
Any comments from the committee?
No.
No, Madam Chair.
So I will motion to bring this to the full council. We need to disclose it so that everyone's on the same page. And a vote needs to be made as to how we're moving forward with the contract. Do I have a second? Or questions?
I'm gonna second it, but I have a question. I'll second it. I mean, wait, can you repeat your motion again? I'm sorry.
To bring this to the
sidetracked.
full council, to discuss what's happened and why to explain why it was pulled, and, allow for the rest of the council to have the opportunity to listen to perhaps the village manager and Mathis, and then decide whether or not we're going to be approving that contract.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You can do a roll call. Actually, can't you just put for question?
I'm confused.
Give me 1 second.
The motion, I need to know to put on the agenda.
As I understand, the motion is to just move the contract to the full council without a recommendation for a discussion on accepting or rejecting.
Okay.
With the new information, yeah.
Yeah, that's how I understood it.
Any comments?
No.
So motions passed. Madam Clerk, can we get a roll call?
Roll call. Chair Roman.
Yes.
Vice Chair, who's the Vice Chair? Vice Chair Cubillos.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nickerson.
No.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so we are moving forward with interim attorney. So I printed the contract for you guys, just in case. I reviewed it pretty much, it's self-explanatory. There was nothing that stood out to me. The contract has the fee of $8,000 per month, and it's a month-to-month contract. And like I said, it's pretty self-explanatory. I understand, Mayor, that you have reviewed the contract already?
I'm looking for something, but I don't see it. Hold on a second. Am I overlooking something, I thought? Did it include all of the services? Because I think what we need to, through the chair, I think what we need to be clear is, you know, we see 8,000, and we're like, oh my God, that's a lot of money. But I asked Erwin for the numbers for 16, 17, and for attorney fees for 16, 17, we spent 85,000 in the year. And I guess my question that I need to be clear on is, hold on a second, let me find it.
It does state what it includes.
Okay, that's where, if you just tell me where, and then I want to just look for,
It's 3.2. It's all under there. It says, you know, includes, but it's not limited to. And then it's stated A through L. Did you have anything you wanted to say?
Yeah, I can explain it. I mean, I guess we're at the workshop. What you had before, and which is not really customary now, is you had a bare minimum retainer, and then you were billed on an hourly basis afterwards, at the discretion of your then firm. The way I approach the representation, which I've done with all of my municipal clients, is there is a laundry list of items that we know are covered under the agreement. So there is no room for any additional billing. The only additional billing that would be considered would be for what are called special items, which is litigation, which also would not be something that I would necessarily be involved with, because you have the League of Cities, and if it's covered under that, the League of Cities takes the lead on that. So when you look at the agreement, you'll see itemized all of the different areas where I expect to be available 24/7.
oh, I found it here. Okay, so if we look at 16, 17, because that's what Erwin went to go print for me, we had, Joe Geller had a retainer of $1,500 a month, but when we look at professional, legal, other, and the reason it was a little substantial was because there was a lot of like land use and meetings with Placerbi and stuff. So last 2016, 17 totaled 75,000. So I think it's important through the chair that you mentioned that to the council, because they look at it, they're going to be like, oh my God. But it's important to note that there was 2 line items that would be drafted, I would assume, into the one. And is there an expiration to this agreement?
It's just month to month.
Okay.
What I want to recommend is that, because we have so many pending items at this time, is that I'd like to just have him focus on that and have, you know, the village manager and, you know, work on the items that are pending, and that perhaps we can look at this at the July committee meeting in terms of, you know, at that point, looking at what we're going to be doing in regards to the RFQ process.
And part of my job is to give you the options. When it comes to village attorneys or village council, there is no boilerplate. You're allowed to solicit. You're allowed to negotiate directly. The most recent experience I've had is that I came in as interim, and it's kind of like dating. Then you decide whether or not you want to continue dating. So there's really no set way to do it, and to the extent that when we come back in July, I'll be able to outline all of the different options you can have at that time also.
I have a quick question. we had a preliminary meeting with the manager, and we laid out like 5, 6, 7 points. So everything that we discussed is in the scope of the work that would be included here. There's
Absolutely.
nothing,
Well, that's my point. Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying
like
to
meeting with the
make before.
developer and
It's
like,
everything, yeah, everything is there. You know, my approach to it and with all my clients is that, you know, I forecast a certain amount of hours, and I usually try to be
That's what I'm talking
conservative
about.
with that, because it's a trade-off. So that's why I itemized everything the way I did. So the meetings, the calls, the whatever, it's all included.
Yep. Okay, any other questions to the attorney?
No, Madam Chair.
Do we have a motion to move the contract for approval of the full council?
Motion to move the contract for approval for full council.
Okay, motion, I'll second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Okay, the next item on the agenda is, we kind of discussed that already, the RFQ process, so moving it to July. And then we'll move on to land use attorney RFQ. I want to say / labor attorney, because we had discussed at our last committee meeting of possibly starting an RFQ for land use attorney. But what I'd like to maybe discuss with our current attorney is if maybe he can help us with this process so that we have both a labor attorney and a land use attorney that we can, that can work together with him on an on-call basis whenever, we need it.
do you cover land, I'm sorry, do you cover land use at all?
I've done land use throughout my career, but as the chair had asked and we discussed
Oh, okay.
offline, this village is it's not that complicated in terms of its land use and land use needs. So my recommendation would be, on a case-by-case basis, we can discuss with the committee if something arises where you might need to hire somebody that's outside my scope of expertise. But I don't know whether or not right now it makes sense to even try to engage a land use or a labor lawyer attorney. Because what's happening since I've been here so far in the last couple of weeks, I don't see the need for it yet.
Like a full-time. Should
Well, would it be some full-time? I think it's more
Just a
so
case
to have
by case.
someone aligned or
be.
a process.
What I was saying was I agree with him, we don't need like a full-time.
yeah,
we just
no,
need
no,
we just
no.
need a case.
That's
by-
the way I drafted the proposed.
It does say it
agreement.
on his contract, yeah.
And I'll certainly come in that you all know. That, maybe the trailer park, we may need someone with some, CDMP experience, that kind of thing, whatever pops up. But,
I think the only complex thing we may have is the little farm, is a nature trail. I mean, is a little farm. I think all the other areas of development are pretty, but I think maybe for the little farm. And then, but I'm wondering, I don't know if an RFQ is necessary, because I think if there is a clause or an extension that, like, if there's 3 or 4 that we have on call that we can work with to get an opinion, because, we tried doing that with the manager, and then, the former attorney was like, no, you can't do that. So I just want to be clear that we can, and that it specifies that.
can't do what?
We wanted to get, when we couldn't get an answer and we sort of needed it immediately, the manager went out to get a legal opinion.
Oh, I see what you're
So, and our attorney of record said, no, you can't do that. So I think it's important to, if we can, does it have to be written in the clause? For some reason you need to get a legal opinion on, I don't know, legal description, I'm thinking off the top of my head, but that's why I asked if everything we have asked you so far that her and I think that are pending, that's within your scope of ability.
Right, and that's the way I drafted the agreement. So to the extent that something comes up, I can recommend
Oh, okay.
to you, hey, by the way, we need this particular person to assist myself and the manager to cover the legal issue.
So I think.
So that's noted in here, so we're not going to be out of, okay.
Yeah, so on
Okay.
L, or is that L, or is that an I? Okay, okay. L, it says serve as liaison with independent counsel when required. So that is covered. I think my question more so, and and I left it as RFQ because that's what we had discussed at our previous committee meeting or at the council meeting. But it's more so, should we have a process already where we know who, or, maybe interview or talk to a labor attorney or land use attorney that we already have, that we know who we're going to be reaching out to? If we have any.
That's supposed to be my job.
Well, that's what I'm saying, yeah, but should you, is that something that,
That I would do.
that you would do, but is that something that we need to have a procedure for now, or we just leave it as it comes?
No, you don't need a procedure for that.
Okay.
So, for example, it's like plotting it on the Doppler. We can forecast, and at the committee meeting, I can say, guess what? This is what's coming up, this is what I recommend, and the committee can make a decision then. But, especially for legal services, you can go through the solicitation process, but as you just mentioned, or I think the mayor just mentioned, you want an answer yesterday most of the time.
Right.
And you really want it you want it now.
Right.
So that's why you have the village attorney.
Okay.
Okay. I think we can move forward. Anyone
Okay.
else, or
No.
can we move forward? Okay. So the next thing on the agenda is the evaluations. And so the clerk's evaluations were due on January 31st, per our last committee meeting. As I met with her and I completed mine as discussed on March 12th, when I met with her, she told me that she had not had any of her evaluations completed. So no one had sat down with her for her one-on-ones. At this point in time, did everyone in the committee?
I haven't.
Okay.
I haven't.
How about, did you meet with her?
I think I met with her the day after you met with her.
Okay, so you met with her on the 13th. Okay, can you, she's not here, can you make sure to email her so that I can get a copy of your, because I didn't get a copy of your evaluation.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
For sure.
And then I don't know if the rest, she's not here, so I guess we'll have to wait to see who else did it. Mayor, do you think that you can get that completed before the end of the month?
Yes, I'm going to do the review with the attorney.
Okay.
And we just are working on a date.
Okay, so do you think that you can do it before the end of the month?
She's at,
Oh. Okay. What's the recommendation?
Well, what I'm asking is if she can do hers before the end of the month.
and my reply was that we're working on a date with the clerk to do that, well, for a few things. One of them is to do the review. So we have to just find if the three of us can find a date, yes?
Okay, I just like to, because we, it's not fair to,
No, I know, I'm the only, I haven't done it, and I know,
and
it's
we've
my
had
bad, I recognize
it for
it.
months, so we're just
I
trying
know.
to move this from the agenda and just trying to get it, moving forward. So I'd like to see it before the end of the month, as soon as possible, if not,
I'll send out
so
another
that we're not
email,
discussing this
I'm
again
sorry, I
in
missed
2
it.
months.
My pen wasn't working. What was it?
that I'm the only one, I guess, that hasn't done the review.
Well, I don't know. Nickerson said that he did his review on the 13th. Did everybody else do their reviews with you?
I'm missing the mayor's.
Okay, so Dreyer did his review.
And I'm missing the mayor's and Mathis.
So Mathis didn't meet with you yet?
Not yet.
Okay. And then Dreyer met with you?
Yes.
Okay. And when did he meet with you?
I don't recall. Not right now.
Okay, can you make sure, because I didn't get their reviews, so as the chair, I like to keep, to have all the reviews, copies of all the reviews. And then I'm sorry?
Excuse me, I have
She was the
some-
holder, yeah,
I have
just
some of
vice
the
versa.
reviews, so I'll
Okay,
give
you
you what
can
I
forward
have.
it? Okay,
I'll
perfect.
give you what I have. It's not all of them.
Okay.
I didn't get, these, just Dreyer's, Mathis, and yours.
Okay,
And
perfect.
Nickerson, I think that
So
same day, I
Nickerson,
may
if
have
you
given
can
you a
make
copy.
sure that you,
Yeah, we gave her the copy that same day.
okay, and then I didn't get mine signed, so I will, I think reviews need to get signed, is that correct? So I'll forward it so that, I signed mine, I'll forward mine so that you can sign yours. And then Mayor, you'll,
I will send an email to the clerk and the attorney again, and we'll solidify a date,
okay. And,
hopefully by the end of March, by March 30th.
okay, so since this process, and I think we've discussed this in the past, we should have a process so that we can move forward with this process, and do this annually with not only the clerk, but, any of our employees, anybody that we're reviewing, which would include, the manager. So with that, what I wanted to propose was that, in the future, the reviews are submitted to the clerk, and then in the future, we all pick a date where everyone meets with the clerk for 10 or 15 minutes and reviews their individual one-on-ones, but it's on the same day, so that this is not happening where we're waiting for, 6 months or whatever. The other thing that I wanted to make sure, now that we have someone in HR, that HR, holds the file, not only for the clerk, for any reviews so that are done. And then we also need to set what the follow-up is. What's the purpose of this review? Is there something, or is there going to be a change in compensation? What's going to happen as a result of the review? Any comments or feedback?
No, I think the only thing you missed would be, you said one-on-ones, but I'd be inclined to disagree with that. So I think there should be either the HR person there, or I think the attorney needs to be present, but I don't think it should be a one-on-one.
Okay. I can understand that. I can see that. So we can certainly, how do you feel, Nickerson?
It doesn't matter to me either way.
Okay. Is that, attorney, you're listening to what we're saying, so.
I think it's fair to the clerk or the employee. I mean, she needs to have certainty, and the process shouldn't drag out over time. And the whole objective of it is presumably to give her an annual review, or the clerk an annual review, and then in line with that, right after the reviews are done timely, to make some recommendation about compensation, bonuses, or whatever is in order. I can sit in on the meetings, but I think certainly if there's a full-time HR person on board, they need to be there. So I don't have to, but as long as the HR person is there.
Okay.
That way, everyone's on the same page.
Is this something, and pardon my ignorance or whatever, but I like to see procedures, and I'm all about procedures, and I think you guys know that. Is it something that we put in a handbook? Is it something that we do a resolution? Like, how do we make this a procedure?
The preferred way is to have a village employee handbook.
I was going to say.
That's the preferred
HR,
way.
yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't think the clerk's going to wait around until.
No, I'm talking about moving forward.
Yeah, going forward.
Yeah,
Well,
going forward.
I hear you. The preferred way is to develop an employee handbook. It's a little bit different, or I shouldn't say a little bit, it's different with the employees that are the charter members that serve at the complete discretion of the council, like myself, the clerk, and also the manager. So in that respect, they serve we serve at the pleasure of the council. So you can, to just answer your question directly, resolve how you want to do that. And so if you want to, I can help you draft a resolution that says for the clerk, the manager, the village attorney, on an annual basis, there will be a review, and prior to either the administrative finance meeting or full commission meeting, there'll be staggered one-on-one interviews, maybe 15 to a half an hour with each council person, and then take it to the, and she's right, well, I wouldn't be with the HR, but, so.
Yeah, I'm the HR, okay. Okay, so I'd like to do that. So you will work together on a resolution for that? Okay. Does the committee feel okay with that?
Yeah, perfect.
I agree.
Okay, you agree with that? Okay. Do we need to do a
You
motion
should.
for that?
You can.
Okay. So we'll make a motion for the attorney to draft a resolution for the charter positions as to how we're moving forward with the annual reviews. do I have,
Right, the charter positions that serve at the will.
that serve at the will of the council?
Of the council.
Which are really, employee-wise, is only two. It's the clerk and the manager. Because the attorney is a contract employee, so it's a little different.
Right, I mean, but it doesn't matter.
Okay.
I could be put in that category too.
That's fine. I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Is this
motion-
going to full council or no? How does
Motion
that work?
passes.
Yes, full council.
Okay. All right, what else do we have? So we've got the evaluations, meetings and procedures. So this came up as, there were some emails that kind of were going around, and I had a discussion with the village manager, you know, of basically confusion. It was the meetings for the Public Works. And so I wanted to just kind of, you know, bring up, I believe that when we had a long time ago, the training on procedures or whatever it was, you know, it was recommended we do resolutions so that there's no confusion, and so, and I'd like to see that. I would like to recommend that we do the same when it comes to how committee meetings or how special council meetings are set, how, you know, the committee meetings, if they're moved, you know, what the procedures are for all of those meetings. Am I making myself clear?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I mean, to me, the whole Public Works was a little awkward because generally, the clerk always calls me or will show me what's on the agenda. I just think that happened so fast. And to me, you know, because how my experience has been is that, well, my experience has been that we get our agendas when we know where we're going to meet. But if it's a special committee or a special, first of all, special council meeting can't even be called unless the manager or the clerk has called and has gotten 3 yeses on the phone. You can't even call a special committee council meeting.
was that? Repeat
And
that.
a special council, the only person that can really call a special council meeting is the mayor.
Okay, right.
Unless the clerk or the manager, and it doesn't really say in the charter, calls and get 3 yeses. If they get 3 yeses, then the special council meeting can be called. That's from what my recollection of the charter. When it comes to committee, it doesn't really define that, but I guess it's taken by the charter. But my experience has been, if there's going to be a special committee, then you call the committee members. And traditionally, that's what always has happened. They call the committee and be like, hey, can you make it? And be like, yay or nay, like yes or no. And a committee meeting can happen if there are 2 yeses. But I think what happened this last week was that, at least to me as a member of the committee, I didn't get a call. And I found that to be a little, you know, different because I always get a call or a copy of the agenda, especially if I sit on it. And as the mayor, the clerk always makes me see the agendas first because the mayor sets the agenda for the most part, especially when it comes to council meetings. But for that specific one, and then when I saw the agenda and when the clerk sends out the email, I had to look back because I couldn't remember. Generally, the committee gets the email before the residents do. So I don't know what happened there, but it's not happened before. So maybe because you're new, you know, I'm all about putting it in writing because that way, like, if the onus falls on the resolution, that we're all on the same page. You know, even when I changed this whole, or asked the council to change first to second Tuesday or third, I wanted it a resolution because we all forget. But the attorney then said, you don't need that in a resolution. I thought we should resolve to agree that this is how we're going to conduct business in El Portal, and I still think we probably should do it. I think that the more we can have in writing, the less we all are be like, oh, that's not my fault, that's not my fault, I didn't mean, like, I just think that it's better that that's defined.
That's how it's supposed to be done. That's how it's supposed to be done. I mean, if you look at any legislative body, they have adopted rules of procedure. Just to your point, in that way you don't have any question about, okay, the council meeting is on, let's say, the 14th. The procedures will define how many days before that meeting you all get your agenda package and what items are included on it, and you have an opportunity to review it. It also will, dictate the order of the meetings, just about everything.
And through the chair, if I may, and that's one of the reasons why actually asked for a meeting with the clerk and the attorney, because we've been doing business a certain way for so long, meaning that we have said, okay, we're going to get all the information to the clerk by Wednesday so that we can have the packages on Friday. But when I told the attorney that with the manager, he's like, wait, you get the package for the council meeting on Friday? So I only have 3 days to meet with the council members, and manager and I were like, wait, you meet with the council members? So one of the things we wanted to meet with the clerk was to go over that, because in his opinion, he would like to potentially request that be considered as to be changed, so that we actually receiving the agendas a week before, because he actually wants to meet with everybody. So I think that we haven't had that meeting yet, but that's one of the things that we want to talk about, because it's a different way of doing business, but it really should be the way we do business. Because, he said many things when I met with him and the manager, and one of the things is that, I have to meet with the council, because if they're sponsoring a certain thing, then I want to know their perspective, and I help them out, and, so the manager and I were like, okay, so I think that that's important, because we actually come to the meeting prepared with either questions or comments or recommendations, or maybe it's not something we're sponsoring, it's our colleague sponsoring, and we don't really understand what that means, so he gives us a different perspective or the perspective. So, but that unfortunately takes time. He can't do that in a weekend. So he was a little alarmed when I said that the clerk gets it on Friday.
And then every week we're having a meeting, so it's
Yeah,
weird.
so, that's where I think that the great line to put it, but I think that also, they need to meet and solidify what that time looks like, because the reality is, the attorney's got to review it, the clerk's got to get the agendas ready, but we all have to agree, so when we come to the council meeting, we can say, okay, we recommend that she needs to receive everything 2 weeks or whatever. I don't know, that's just a conversation that needs to be had.
So I definitely think, from what I'm hearing, is that we need to adopt this, and we did agree somewhat, whenever it was 2 years ago, when we had that training, that we would move forward with resolutions. So I do think that, and not only that, but I think I mentioned, when I first got elected, that there was no, I had no way to know what was going on or how anything was supposed to happen. This will help in the future with
New electeds to know the
electeds
process, to see
and,
read the
know what the
resolution.
processes are. So I'd like to recommend that there's a motion to make sure that we're moving forward with resolutions in regards to when it comes to meetings and procedures.
I think the motion is to instruct the
Just-
village attorney to come back with
yeah.
the proposed meeting procedures.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
I
I
got
think
it.
that's a better way to put it. Because if not, then we're all going to leave her and be like, well, who's going to do it?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's me. That's not a problem. I mean,
But it has to
it's
be
out there. It's
discussed.
not- I mean, I'm not complaining. It's out there. I mean, I'm not going to be reinventing the wheel. So
Right.
it's out there. I'm going to come back with what I would recommend, and you all as a council can pick and choose what aspects of the salad bar you want to eat from. It's up to
Should we
all.
bring that back to committee and then bring it to the full council?
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah. So, so then you'll have that to us by for the May? Okay.
Well, I can also circulate drafts of it.
Drafts, yeah,
as
okay.
we get
We'll work
closer.
on it and
See.
then, okay.
And if anybody has any, when you get the drafts, you just call me and, say,
Yeah.
Okay, so for the May committee, okay.
Madam Chair, 1 second.
Yes.
If I may. Because we were discussing, which the mayor was absolutely right about, special council meetings being called. We also need to, which I'm sure, because he's going to have a abundance of things that we can choose from, maybe focus on, because I was confused about the public works, because I'm not on the public works committee, but I was confused. I didn't know if it was a special public works committee meeting, or if it was like today's meeting done in advance.
Right.
So that's different. It's not like a special meeting being called. It was actually like today's meeting just being done on another day.
Yeah, what
So
happened was,
that's-
councilperson, if I may talk, because this is what happened. What happened was Councilperson Dreher was telling me that he was told that he can come up with a special special committee meeting, Public Works, and it had been since February or something like that, to that effect. For his meeting, actually, there's something on the table right now that I've emailed all of you, which I was supposed to actually, because I wasn't in the last meeting, that you guys were supposed to get back to me on what's going on. So I'm stuck in between one and the other.
Yeah. I just
There's
didn't-
things that are pressing for me to do on one side, and then I have the other side, and they're not both they can't communicate, but through me, they're still not telling me what to do.
And-
So I'm getting two different directives.
And it's not a huge.
Well, that's why a resolution.
That's why a
needs-
resolution.
An initial resolution needs to be in place. Okay, so we're moving forward because we don't need to.
And maybe the resolution also needs to include the time frame that the council responds. I haven't responded, but I actually forwarded to the attorney, because you weren't initially copied, to know if you're available those dates, because if you are, then I'll make myself available too, because I think we all need to be available on those dates, which is April, what are the dates? April 3rd?
April 3rd, but now it's going to have to be probably April 4th or the next day, because they said something, I wasn't here at that meeting. So what Christia sent out to me was 14 days, I think, correct? So today I'm pressed with like, you need to notice this today, and I'm like, wait a second, I need a response from everybody, not just one person,
For what, I'm lost with the April what? For what?
for Public Works.
There's a Public Works Town Hall or special
There's a
meeting.
second town hall.
Oh, okay.
I cannot do April 5th. April 5th is a league meeting, I can't do that, and I have to be at that one.
April 4th.
April 4th, I can.
Okay,
April 4th,
so we're
Wednesday.
moving on from April 4th, okay.
At 6:30?
I think was it 6:30? I wasn't here, I don't know.
I don't know.
7? I wasn't here.
I'll,
I mean, we show up.
Is that a public works, that's a workshop?
Meeting.
it's a meeting, a town hall, it's like
It's 2 in 1. It's the
I
week
think
of
the
that.
town hall was Monday 26, what they had agreed on. No? Right.
I'm looking for the email right now.
You and I are not on the 20th,
Right, no, I know that.
so we can show up just to.
Yeah, no, I know, yeah, go ahead.
Yes, the workshop, it's a workshop, and it was scheduled for Monday, the 26th.
That's one.
But the notice needed to